All right, I'm gonna try and start here. Um, so quite some time ago, I started an installation of Xilinx Vivado, tool for FPGA development. And just give me a sec. Hello, I'm back. And so, anyways, I tried to install. Let's see if I can do this. I don't know how any of this is going to work. Whether, how, any of that stuff. Um, yeah, so I'm installing Xilinx Vivado, which is a field programmable gate array development tool. As part of the overall um, part of the overall process of trying to reinstall my computer after having to put in a new hard drive because the old one was in the process of failing. I've been at it for days. I started it on Saturday. Did a live stream for many hours and got the operating system installed and some of the basic bits and pieces in. And I've been plunking away at this bloody job ever since. So all to say, if my stream goes to hell, my apologies. Xilinx is still beating up my machine right now. So the plan for today is to take the this. Let's see if this all works. Plan today is to take this thing, which is a digital oscilloscope, and I built this on stream a couple of on Sunday, I guess it was. Did I finish it? Nope, not Sunday. It would have been Thursday. Thursday was when I finished it. And so basically it came as a bare board with a couple of components on it that are a surface mount, and I soldered the rest of the stuff on myself. And it worked out of the box, which is nice. And yeah, so today, again, what I'm going to do is put it inside this acrylic box. There's no assembly instructions, but I did make one last year. So this is the second one. So one of them is going to be kind of in my home kit. The other one's going to be sort of in my porta kit of electronics. And maybe one of the things I've always thought of is that if anyone, particularly a kid or something like that, was particularly interested in electronics, having a spare one around, I can just go, well, here you go. Here's an oscilloscope for you. And all right, what are we doing? Well, I'm looking at the screen, and my screen seems to be streaming, so I'm just going to continue as though it were. All right. All right, so I'm Old Man Felonious, and today I forgot to press the button. I'm going to be putting this into a box. Last year I did build one before, and again now I've got two. One for my own kit, one for my porta kit, and in case I want to give it away to someone who's particularly interested in electronics or something like that. They were $25 or something, $20, I forget, on AliExpress. So they were cheap as dirt. Some assembly required, which was why I bought it, is because I wanted to do. One of the main reasons why I bought it is I wanted to assemble something. I wanted to build something with my hands, and this gave me something at the other side, so it's not just a bauble or something. I find it pretty, but it's also useful. These scopes go up to about 100 kilohertz bandwidth. You can see from the sort of the rounded edges of the 1 kilohertz signal. I did my best to tune it using their instructions, and it made it a bit better, but that little rounded bit is basically bandwidth limiting in the analog electronics. So it's not a great scope, but it's fun. All right, so unplug it and get started. And I bought this. It comes with alligator clips on a BNC, and very useful tool to have. But I bought this proper cheapest dirt oscilloscope probe for like $5-10 or something like that as well from AliExpress, kind of at the same time. I've got two of them, one for each of my boxes here. So I've already gone and put fingerprints all over the frickin' thing. So give me 2 seconds and I'll be back with some cleaning for this. Well, I'll do that in a second actually, because I might accidentally touch it again. But the basic thing here is it comes with these, what I presume are, I don't know if they're laser cut or water cut, but they're cut from acrylic sheets and covered with adhesive paper. So the first thing to do is to remove all of the adhesive paper from the things. Again, if the stream screws up at all, you can blame Xilinx and their Vivato product, which is installing as we speak. I started it shortly after 6 o'clock my time. It is 7:30 my time now, and the thing is still chugging along. It's an absolute beast. So yeah, you just take the paper off. Try and handle it from the corner, the edges or corners or whatever, if you can. That will keep fingerprints off of it, especially on the inside, which would be kind of annoying. But whatever. I've already got fingerprints all over it. All right. Well, hold on here. I'm seeing 2 sides, and I need 4 sides. So what's going on? What have I done? Yeah, these little corner cutouts and stuff can be really hard to remove, especially when it kind of goes up like that. So I'm going to do 2 things here. One of them is I'm going to go get my cleaning stuff. And yeah, there is. While I'm up, I'm going to wash my hands, and hopefully they'll be a little bit less oily. So all right, so I did the again the installer for Xilinx Vivato. It's installing, and it appears to have done the final installation steps, whatever that is, but once it was done finalizing it, now it's optimizing data usage. Whatever that means. All right, so I'll be right back with some cleaning stuff. Hey, lulls. Good to see you. I'm going to be 2 seconds. I'm just going to run away and get some paper towels, some isopropyl alcohol, and give my hands a quick wash so that I'm hopefully not leaving as many fingerprints, because I got to clean all that before I assemble it into a box, right? Eesh. I'll be right back. Yeah, how you doing, eh? Hopefully things are going well for you today. Doing all right. All right. Uh, me, I'm just, yeah, I'm pretty overwhelmed right now with everything that's going on. Uh, I'm hoping that by doing this and doing something, um, it's supposed to be fun. See how that all turns out, of course. That my day gets a bit better. There's a whole bunch of stuff I was supposed to do, and I haven't been feeling well. So, not the vid. Well, funny enough, actually, I was feeling bad enough that I actually did a rapid test just for shits and giggles, and it was quite negative. They're not very accurate tests, but I figure if I was that, if I was, well, anyways, it doesn't really tell me everything, but if I had it, it would tell me. Or no, it wouldn't actually. Yeah, they're only about good to about 30% accuracy with the Omicron variants and stuff. So yeah, I guess it wouldn't tell me much. Yeah. If it did come back positive, then I knew I had something. Basically, I guess that's all I can say. Um, but no, I think I'm just. Well, I went back to work a week and a half ago, and I'm just baked. Not in the way that some people use the word. I am overwhelmed. Give me another 2 seconds. Yeah, I think the pieces I'm missing are in here. Not really ill, but like so tired that I'm wondering if I'm sick, but I'm not actually sick. I'm just really, really, really worn out. Really tired. Oh, there's the other piece. All right. So 4 sides on a rectangle or whatever this is. Uh, it's not burnout yet. Might be burnout soon, but I was definitely suffering from burnout earlier this year. That's for sure. Um, so yeah, but I need to sort it out. I need to part of the problem is I'm just having trouble getting to sleep, which is not usual for me. I mean, I'm a very good sleeper. Um, but I'm also a night owl, and to hold down the kind of job that I have, you kind of have to get up during the day and get out of the house. So that's not agreeing with me, shall we say. Never did, never will. Uh, but I felt fine, and then you feel fine until you try and start doing something, and then you're like, maybe I'm not so fine. So that's kind of where I'm at, I think, is I should be fine, and I mostly feel fine until I actually try and run with that diagnosis of feeling fine. I sort it out or I don't, right? If I don't, then I'm just another fucking victim of COVID. So, and I'll be mighty pissed off. I am pissed off most of the time, but I'll be pissed off at something in particular this time. I'm always, yeah, no, it's always something. I try and be angry about good things to be angry about. And not angry about, whatever. There's a lot to be angry about these days in the world. Okay, got my 4 sides done. I think I'll just go ahead and TMKDK, hello. Yeah, clashing schedule and body clock. That's been my life. Like from the time I was this freaking big. I have not synced or meshed well with the rest of with what well, I'll say what with the general consensus that daytime is the time to be awake. I've never gotten along with that. Not ever. Not again. That and my mom pretty much. I was a night owl, so it's not going to change now, let me tell you. Shitposty stuff? I don't know what you're talking about. You're doing fine so far. I haven't heard any shitposty stuff from you so far, unless I have missed something. You're doing just fine. How are you doing today, TMKDK? Lol said they've had a mixed bag of a day. It has certainly been my day as well. A mixed bag. I'm enjoying doing this. This is it's a good thing to be doing with my time, I think. So one of the things, and so this is hopefully going to be a fairly short stream, but so I will likely wrap it. I don't really have anything lined up if and when I finish this case for the oscilloscope. Now, one of the funny things is that again, there's no instructions on how to do this. So the first time I did it, again, I did do another one last year. And those are just like furniture pads for the feet. Yes, I'm putting together a case for this digital oscilloscope that I finished assembling last Thursday. And I did that on stream. And I'm putting it into the case this stream. Should mention tomorrow, not quite sure how this is going to work out. Tomorrow, Thursday, might be Saturday. I don't know. Yeah, if I finish this today, then tomorrow probably going to be finishing up some more of the diorama that I've been working on, the little miniature house cottage thing. And it's not the whole thing, sorry, but the stuff that I started working on the last time, which was little microscopic furniture, like centimeter across, for like an oven, and little parts that are 0.4 centimeters, 0.3 centimeters across. Yeah, it's crazy. But I am enjoying that as well. So I'll probably be doing that Wednesday night. Might be Thursday night too. Thursday night might actually be something not that. And one of the things that's kind of coming to the stream soon is my eldest has been after me to sit down with me and show me their technique for making fresh pasta. And so if I do it Thursday night, that's all we'll be doing is making fresh pasta and cooking it and stuff. If I do it Saturday, then it'll probably be the latter part of the stream, with the earlier part of the stream either being more electronic assembly or again working on that model. I'm not in any rush to finish any of this stuff. I'm just happy to be working on it again. And there's always, I was talking to lulls. I was talking to you earlier about just being overwhelmed, and there's so much stuff in my life that is urgent and important and has to be done all the frickin' time. And that does lead to burnout, of course, as you say. And it doesn't leave me with a lot of time to do stuff that's kind of fun and allows me to decompress. So that's kind of part of what this is. Also, it's just plain fun, I think. All right, so that's the paper from that. I was just going to show you something. I'll be right back, actually. Yeah, okay. Will you be using the oscilloscope for anything in particular? Yes and no. So it's going to be used for some of the projects I'm working on. For instance, I'm going to be working with something called an I2C bus, if you've heard of that before. This is for my work, and this is a pure, experiment kind of thing. There's a chip. I forget the name of it or number or whatever, but there's a chip that transparently extends the I2C bus. So the I2C bus is runs at either, usually 100 kilohertz, but it can go up to a megahertz, 400 kilohertz, or 100 kilohertz or 400 kilohertz. I think 400 kilohertz is the maximum. And there's a clock and an I/O line, and it's a bidirectional I/O line, and there's multi-master negotiation, all that sort of stuff, for who gets to talk to who. But it's a very short range interface, and it's really only ever used on printed circuit boards, but it's a really useful interface for connecting up sensors and all that sort of stuff too. But once you take it off the board and put it through a wire, it's usually not very reliable. So I'm still looking at my install. The little thing hasn't moved for a while, so hopefully it hasn't crashed. So I'd really hate to do it again because it's already taken like pushing an hour and a half, 2 hours to do. Those gigabytes download, like 24 gigabytes to download, and then obviously it gets bigger when you install it. Monster. I2C. Sorry, I'm distractible. So this company makes a chip that you connect your I2C buses to. Again, as soon as you get off the board, you have huge signal integrity issues. And there's a company that makes a chip that converts I2C on both ends into a multi-drop differential bus with differential signaling that you can actually put over tens of feet kind of thing, or 3-4 meters kind of thing, no problem, and over twisted pair. And so I've been wanting to test this out again for the company I work for, but also it'd be kind of useful for some of the other ideas I've had as well. It'd be a lot easier if I could just use I2C over a longer distance. So something to have in my toolkit, my back pocket or whatever as well. So anyways, this oscilloscope will be good for looking at that sort of thing. because it's if I run it at 100 kilohertz, then this should be good enough to see it. And yeah, so if my mic is going bad, I'm afraid we're going to have to blame Xilinx and the Vivado installer. I kicked it off shortly after 6 o'clock, thinking it would be done by 7, and it's still going. So if the mic goes bad, that's what it is. And please let me know if it gets particularly bad, and I'll see what I can do. I'll be back in just a second. I want to show you something else. So here's one of the next projects that I want to work on. If you know your computer history, PDP 1170. And this is a classic old, called mini computers at the time. And this is a scale model of this system. These are used for templates to hold all the LEDs. So behind this front panel are all of these LEDs. Then below the panel are switches. So LEDs go here, they stand up, and they go behind the panel. And you have 21 switches. 0 to 15 are the data bits, and then there's some additional bits. But this is it's not a real PDP-11. Yeah, thanks for letting me know, though. And again, I'm wondering what the hell this install is doing, because the little progress bar is not doing anything. Again, this is obviously a laser cut board. But this was a kit I ordered from someone in Europe. And I kind of put all of the parts into a bin here for holding. But one of the it even has keys. And it has the dials and switches and stuff, LEDs. And the big thing that this person has done is had molded switches done, so you actually have the proper so you had the proper toggle switches with the proper colors on them as well. And yeah, some of these are momentary to, like load or register or something like that. And some of them are toggle on, toggle off, which again would be to set a 1 or a 0 onto a data bit or an address line. And so literally you can key in programs from the front panel. And with these computers, you actually had to do that. You had to key in, there's basically, usually it was like printed out and kept to the side, but you actually had to key in a binary loader. So you would actually, go with the switches and flip them up and down and blah, 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 into certain patterns, and then go, okay, well, store this in memory, and then go to the next one and set the proper bits and store it in memory. And then once you had them all in, then you could go and you could run the program, and it would do something like load a paper tape through a teletype machine or something. And so it's kind of like, I guess it's kind of like an Apple II, kind of more powerful than an Apple II. One of the things that's kind of neat about this computer is, just give me a sec here. apparently what the installer is saying is optimizing disk use, so I don't know what it's doing. I don't even want to think about it really. Hopefully my stream doesn't cap out too hard. One of the interesting things about the PDP-11 is it was one of the first computers that Unix became popular on. It was one of the first targets. I think the C programming language was developed for it. I may be getting my history wrong. If it was not developed for it, it was targeted at the PDP-11 shortly after that. And so between Unix and the C programming language, we really have the foundations for modern software development on this box. And of course led to Linux many years later, of course. So the PDP-11 was a very important computer in in history. Yeah, it can run games, sure. And the PDP-11 actually had a custom, didn't have a CPU like we know them now. It was actually, the CPU was built out of components. So again, it wasn't like a processor chip. It was a whole bunch of electronics that formed a computer, central processing unit inside the PDP-11. So the PDP-11 was, in a lot of ways, a CPU and is bigger than the one that I have. Right, this is a scale model of it. It was a full 19-inch rack mount thing, about yay tall and about yay wide. I don't know. You can't even see my hands here, or whatever. There was a 19. It was big, and it was basically just a CPU. There was memory in it and I/O and that sort of thing as well, but not the Apple II. Was probably comparable in power. BBC Micro, kind of in this again. The Apple II and the BBC Micro were his compatriots in a lot of ways. BBC Micro was revolutionary as well, as a concept. Computing for the masses. What an amazing idea. PDP-11 was a lot more powerful than it because, again, it was an architecture developed for high performance scientific and business computing. And it was affordable for a medium-sized laboratory or large educational institution. These were not cheap devices. Whereas the Apple II was not cheap, but it was meant to be consumer, not industrial or academic. Anyways, this particular kit is actually the PI DP1170, and the PI in PI DP is Pi. So what you do is, it's a miniature mainframe. I think that's maybe the best way to put it. It was trying to bring mainframe power into a laboratory or business environment. That's actually, that's I think really the best way to put it. You can run games on it, like the Apple II, of course. Yes. There's a text-based game called Adventure. I don't know if you've ever played that. That is certainly available for the PDP-11. But there's all kinds of other games and stuff, and some of the games you can play on a CRT, cathode ray tube, TV screen, whatever. And some of them were rastered. I mean, you had a special I/O unit for that. And some of them were vectors. So you would actually have the PDP-11 send voltages to effectively an XY oscilloscope screen, which was just, again, a cathode ray tube, and it would move the electron beam around the screen and draw on the phosphor, and you could play games like, Meteor and Asteroid and stuff like that. So some very early games were done on the PDP-11 as well. So I wanted to show you that. That's going to be the next assembly kit I think I'm going to do for electronics. And there's one other thing I wanted to show you, because I'm still going through boxes, and I love vector stuff. I found these in a box. Slide rule instructions. So how to do trigonometry and yeah, multiplication, division, square roots, squares, cube roots, and cubes, powers, reciprocals, exponentials, logarithms, trigonometric operations, and how to use it for civil engineering, mechanical engineering, and electrical engineering and business. So, how to calculate compound interest and future value of an investment and statistics using nothing but a stick. Here's another one that I got. This one actually, I didn't steal it. I bought it from a library. And again, it gives instructions on how to use these antique devices. And then the other thing that I got actually that you kind of needed when you were using one of these, anyways, there's another one there. Mathematical tables. So they printed books that were nothing but logarithms, trigonometric values and that sort of thing. So you could use kind of the lookup here and do look up kind of the values in the middle, and you would need to use those again when you're doing like logarithmic or trigonometric calculations. So that was kind of funny that I thought I would share. So since we're talking about computers and old computers, well, boy oh boy, these are old computers. And the first book, yeah. And this is a picture of these. I remember my dad having slide rules. He was a heavy equipment mechanic for a paper company. And so yeah, kicking it ultra old school. I actually still use a slide rule, but I use it for navigation, not for business application, shall we say. Okay, I'm going to start putting this together. Now, one of the things, I do have a slide rule. I think I have one somewhere. I haven't seen it in a long time, so if I do find it, I'll bring it on my stream someday, and I'll try to do some calculations with it. So, hold on, dropped a piece on the floor. Of course. I see it at least. So in slide rule. Yeah, I didn't even see side. I read it as slide. But anything else I've missed? Where do they generate the table? They use a calculator. And by calculator, I mean a human being. And by a human being, I mean a woman. And before they had electronic calculators or mechanical calculators, their women were employed as calculators. And I think there's a film about the calculators at NASA out there, and I forget the name of it. If you can remember, something, numbers, figures, hidden figures, I think, about the women behind the scenes that were doing the calculations by hand. They did have mechanical crank calculators and stuff as well, so it wasn't just people, but that is generally where we got these numbers from originally, was people sitting down and calculating. And again, it was often women doing these large tables of numbers. Later, they were verified by machines, but again, initially the initial tables were usually done by women. Calculators. And that is where the word calculator came from. A human being, not a machine. All right. Yeah, so these are kind of fun. They go over the switches like this, and so that you can kind of push the switches back and forth with the pieces. And these are obviously clear acrylic, and these were done in a colored plastic. I don't know if it was acrylic or not, but same general idea. However, they cut out the other stuff is what they did with this. And I'll go ahead and get all the paper off, because I'm going to have to do it eventually anyways. Yeah, mathematicians figured out how to do these calculations. In a lot of cases, it was successive approximations. So that's how they used to do numerical calculus as well, is they would take a wild-ass guess, usually an educated guess, as to kind of where the answer was, and then they would kind of draw a line on a plot, and then they would then use that to then calculate an in-between value, or realize whether they're high or low, and then try and calculate an in-between value. And they would keep doing that, kind of narrowing down on the real value, with sort of multiple iterations of an algorithm. And I had to learn how to do that in school. And I should mention I went to school in the 2000s for that, not not when I was in public school. Primary and secondary, whatever. John Napier of Merchiston, nicknamed Marvelous Merchiston, was a Scottish landowner known as a mathematician, physicist, and astronomer. He was the 8th Laird of Merchiston. His Latinized name was Jonas Nepper, or John Napier is best known as the discoverer of logarithms. Okay, yeah, heard Napier. I've not heard any of that other stuff. Logarithms are pretty amazing things. Again, they allow you to do some very complex, if you can get a value into a logarithmic form through whatever conversion process, and it just could be looking it up in a table, it allows you to do things like multiplication, division, and exponentiation, all that sort of stuff using logarithms, and you just have to know how to do, add and subtract. And you can perform all of these other very complex operations as long as you're all doing it in logarithm space. Okay. So all my bits and pieces are done. Now, the one thing, this took me hours and hours and frickin' hours to do, and I don't know if there's any way for you to see it. Yes, you can. So, if you look in the bottom here, you can see a couple of washers. And this took me forever to figure out. Because the way that this is designed is the pads, like the soldered, I figured it was Google, but you don't have to admit to that. You can just pat yourself on the back and go, I got this. Yeah, you can kind of see them well here as well, the washers. The soldered connections were jamming against the bottom acrylic, and we're kind of warping it. So it also took me freaking forever to figure out where each of these, where the various plastic pieces went to put it all together. So I'm going to use this as a cheat because I don't want to spend 35 frickin' hours doing that again. So one of the things that I can do immediately is you can see that these screws here are there's a middle layer of acrylic, and the heads of the screws are below and the rest of the screw is above. So already I know I have to put those through there. There's another one there. And then what I need to do is put the oh yeah, that's right. There's a smallish a standoff. And I don't know if you can see or not, but there's two. It doesn't show up very well, but there's, maybe you can kind of see the little discontinuity there. So there's a smallish one, or a medium-sized one, and then a smaller one on top of it to actually get the right height for this middle bit. And you know it's the right height because the switches, these little stand-up pieces, the red things, go on the switches properly if you yeah, pie cases. They are a pain in the ass. Oh, so I never finished what I was saying about the PDP-11. When it's all built, you take a Raspberry Pi and you jam it on the back. And then you run emulation software on the Pi. The Pi emulates a PDP-11. And you've got the mechanical front case basically for show. And so you can actually use the computer as you would use an old PDP-11. But again, it's smaller and it runs on a Raspberry Pi. So, anyways, it took me forever to figure out that these two pieces went there, and then that went on, and then this went on top. These pieces here are threaded, so the pieces on the bottom are just offsets with holes in them, and the ones that go on the top are little hex ones, and these are threaded. So, well, it's total cheat. Yeah, it's for play. It's a toy, and it's kind of funny because they're custom made. This guy Oscar makes a batch every year or two or a couple of years, depending on demand. So if you search for PIDP11, you'll find his page. Or PDP-11 kit, you should find his page as well. He also does a PDP-8, which is the one I really want, because I used to own PDP-8. So they would be nice, but again, it's a miniaturized one, and it's a little bit, it's more fun to put on your shelf. So out of all of the the various things I've bought over the years that were maybe not actually useful, this is probably the worst case of that. It is an egregious, the PDP-11 thing is an egregious purchase. But 'tis what it is, and I won't say that I had buyer's regret. But I did roll my eyes at myself pretty hard, let me tell you. What the hell am I doing? So, first thing is, get all of these screws in here. And this will be the start of the assembly. And then I know I need to put on, it's going to be fun, and I'm really going to enjoy playing with it. And, it's something that, I've always thought about, giving lessons, especially to kids and stuff, on old computers and stuff, and it would make a great learning tool. All right, let me quart of isopropyl alcohol. Oh, so it was on the outside, and I didn't need to do that. I thought, no, now I just put my hand all over it. All right, so there we go. Make sure that the inside of my case is optically clean. And this, I've got fingerprints on this thing again. Can't seem to help myself. Oh, that's a mess. All right, so again, just knowing that I've got to put these washers here and knowing what parts go on which is going to save forever, because this took me hours and hours to figure out the first time I did this with no instructions. Again, there's no instructions provided with the case. And even if there was, and I put it together exactly the way they were saying, by design, it's not great because you have again, the solder leads on the bottom were basically kind of warping the printed circuit board as you tried to put it together. So not great. Hybrid of emulation and recreation hardware. Yes, that's it. And as TMKDK said, yes, it's just a cheat, but hopefully a fun one. And we'll see how it goes. Yeah, maybe what I can do is I can hook up a webcam to it someday and do time sharing. Who knows what I'm going to do. Right now, I don't have the time to do that, but maybe someday I will. Yeah. Seriously, I should be using Kim wipes or something on this because they are guaranteed to be oil-free when you get them. I'm wondering, like, as soon as I touch it or whatever, I'm getting... There we go, that's clean. Now, I definitely want the LCD screen to be clean inside the case. Okay, so there's no orientation to this, but I dropped this onto the screws. And it is sitting on top of the washers. And I made sure when I was doing this that there was enough space around the washers so that the washers wouldn't short out any of the electronics. So we're good there. And then these barrel offsets go on here. There we go. And then the shorter ones, so there's a medium-sized one and then these smaller ones. The one here as well to get the proper height. And my guess is that they were able to buy these off the shelf and that by using two of them instead of one, it was cheaper for them to put the kit together. So no problem there. And then fairly obvious, this goes on like this. So you can see the switch holes here and I guess they're all switch holes, but the push button holes here and the slider holes there. So what I'm going to do is, again, this could be in this orientation. So again, it's a very clever thing they've done. And I should mention as well that, let's see here. Cool thing as well with teaching old computing is it gets people more familiarized with the lower end of computer architecture, which people aren't really taught about unless they study computing at a higher level. Exactly. When I was building my little power bar controller on Stream, one of the things that's kind of cool with the architecture, the Cypress, now Infineon, PSOC architecture, or the 4200 architecture anyways, is that, you know what would be easier if I did it this way. is that it has something on it called a data path processor, and it's basically an arithmetic logic unit, a set of registers, a microcode engine, and programmable logic, and you can literally build your own microprocessor out of the programmable logic on this chip. They also have a 32-bit ARM on there, but you can basically tailor a processor of your own to do a specific thing in hardware, acting on it with microcoded firmware at that level, and no one knows how to use this stuff anymore. So it's an incredibly powerful thing on this chip, but even the Cypress application engineers were basically saying that they're not sure they're going to keep that functionality on these chips because not enough people were using it. And when they did use it, they were very heavy in terms of the amount of support required. Because, again, people aren't used to using these sorts of things. So, again, very clever kit building here in that they just used standard countersunk head, plastic Phillips screws, and standard screw caps. This is all number 440 hardware, just off-the-shelf stuff, and they used it kind of as a I don't know if you know your Futurama thing longer, basically to allow you to bring the push button switches along the side here up through the case to the top. And again, very, very simple, cheap solution to this, and I love those sorts of things. One of the things that I have, actually, the lamps I bought. Let me just go get one. Oh, wait, or what do we got here? There's a cool 16 by 2 LCD simulator built on Java where you push a button and set the bit to understand how it works. Yeah. Again, those things are invaluable when people are interested in learning about how computers actually work. All right. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I let my HTTPS cert expire earlier this year. I did fix it as soon as I noticed it, but it's like, yeah. So it does happen, and my cert is good again, but I did let it expire. I got the email, I think, and I ignored it because I was in the middle of some freaking chaos. Who knows? And I was like, well, that's embarrassing. It's expensive. The certification keys are expensive, and if you're just doing it as a hobbyist, it'd be a lot of money, just to have that, little check mark or whatever it is you get. Okay, so again, this is the button pushing screws here, and they will go there. And then got these things. Yeah, I seem to remember these being a little tricky to do, so I'll try putting them on here. I don't know if you know your Inuit lore, but these look like little Inukshuks, which were made out of piled stones, kind of to help guide people, telling them what direction things were in. So if I do this... Are these even fitting through here? I see the problem. All right. Give me a sec. I think I seem to remember this problem with the other one as well, is that some of these were a little too tight. That one's okay. That one's okay. The middle one's too tight. The hole's a little bit too small. I just picked it up and all of the screws and hardware fell out all over the floor. And this is why I can't have nice things. Seemed like a good idea at the time, but it was never a good idea. Pick it up and lift it. If I had slid it across the table, it would have been fine. Yes, many want the money grab even when they do nothing with it. Yeah. And paranoid about things that are typically fine, like things about HTTPS. Shouldn't matter unless you're inputting data onto the site, but my mind goes wild and rejects logic. Well, yes and no. Having the certification is more than just protecting the connection. It does show a certain amount of care by the person maintaining the site to keep at very least their certifications up to date and hopefully their software up to date. So in general, in tech, if you see one bit of sloppiness, you can often assume that there's going to be other areas of sloppiness in what they're doing. Again, that's why I found it embarrassing that I let my cert go, because it's like, yeah, that's embarrassing. Because it's not the impression that I want to give, right? Okay, so I lost the 3 little ones. Let me go look for them. They're on the floor somewhere. 1 and 1. 1. Oh, there's one here. Sorry. Right. So I got 3. Wouldn't it be nice if it was still up here? No, I don't see it. Those little bastards can roll around and bounce. Oh. I'm looking. I am crawling around on the floor. I am looking for a little piece of plastic. I do not see the little piece of plastic. Well, the problem is that I cannot finish this project without that little piece of plastic. So, I will have to find it. I'm going to search a little bit better up here in case it did stay on the table. But I'm guessing it did not. And again, they bounce really, really well. I do seem to remember hearing two hitting the floor, so all right, we'll do this. I seem to remember doing that with you know, I'll do something. I don't know what I'm going to do if I can't find it. But give me a couple of minutes and I will look a little bit more rigorously for it, and we'll be right back. So let's see. Bum, bum, bum. Good point. Have you ever done web development stuff commercially or only as a hobbyist? If you're asking me, I've done it commercially. Well, no, okay, so maybe that's the wrong way to put it. I have done it as part of various endeavors I have been part of. Usually the web development was not the primary thing that I was supposed to be doing, but I ended up having to do it. So I am doing web development right now, and it will be a commercial website when I'm done, but I'm but again, a lot of the web development I've done has been for organizations I've been with, or as part of a project that I was working on, electronics or software, that I had to do web development as well, rather than being hired like as a web developer sort of thing. There are many libraries to the 16:2 LCD. Build your own. Okay, just to understand better. One important thing about that LCD is it needs slow data for it to work. Yeah. Yeah, else blame your cat. I was wondering, considering the stuff you mentioned regarding certs. Yeah, no, I have my own web server in the basement, so I actually have a presence on the web, shall we say? Against for a couple of projects that I would love to get off the ground and have not yet. And some of the stuff that's up there, I keep. I did some open hardware development, and I released some libraries for KitKat and stuff like that, and not a lot, but I've done a little bit of release some stuff to the public as open source or open hardware, open source, whatever. I have that on the website, but ultimately the website is for me to do the prototyping work that I need to do to create the web portal for another idea that I have. It's a physical thing, but it needs a web portal, so I will be doing the web development for that. I have been. I've got the back end done, and I'd have to sit down and do the JavaScript. Another project that I worked on at one point in time was, sadly I'm not talking to him anymore because of his views on society, but he was an artist and a producer, very, very innovative person, very creative, and he did, I don't know if you familiar with FMV's full motion video games from the 1990s. He did one before that craze kind of took off, and really revolutionary stuff. And one of the things that I was doing, it was all done in something called Macromedia Director, bought by Adobe eventually. And one of the things that I was working on was porting it to JavaScript. So it would run on the web. And the idea is that I would develop an engine, and one of the things that this particular genre that he created really allowed you to tell stories in a very different way than other games or other media. It's really unique as far as well, it is unique. I know for a fact it's unique because we've looked comprehensively. And the so one of the so the idea was to build an engine, in JavaScript, so that we could basically take the video and audio and the the storyboarding and all the decision paths and that sort of thing, and implement it using a data-driven framework and deploy it on the web. So I did quite a bit of work on that, and so it was also multimedia JavaScript and that sort of thing, HTML5 and a whole bunch of stuff, and never finished. I got overwhelmed with other stuff and never finished it, but I got a good start on it. And again, I think if we were still talking, I would definitely be wanting to work on it again. So see how all that goes. But anyways, that's very sad for me, actually. But that was some pretty heavy web development. All right. Search and how you felt this, yeah. Was it a crazy person? That's a hard question to answer. I think fundamentally they were of sound mind. They just had made poor choices, and perhaps associated with the wrong sorts of people, and lost their connection with sense and reality. But I don't think it was because of actual mental illness or anything. I think it was more social than biological or mental or whatever. And it's heartbreaking. So I wish them the best. There no ill will towards them, but yeah, it just makes me sad. It would have been really nice, kind of as a legacy. They're old as well. It would have been nice as a legacy if we could have done that and made that kind of a tool available to modern storytellers on a modern platform, kind of thing. Because then you can play it on your cell phone, you can play it on the web, you can play it anywhere you are. And I was using WebSockets and stuff, so it would save your data as you played, and you could just pick it up. Like basically, you could play it on the bus, play it for 3 minutes, or 5 minutes, or half an hour, and then just put your phone away, and then on your way home, pick it up and just start where you left off, and it would remember where you were, kind of thing. So, yeah, they were pretty extreme. Yeah, I'm not going to go into any details because it makes me too sad. I'll be back. So I will be right back. I'm going to search for a couple of minutes. I realized as we were talking that if it all goes to shit, I can always make up the missing amount of vertical height. I'm not going to pick the frickin' thing up and show it to you because I'll just dump everything all over the place again. But I can actually stack some washers on here to equal the the offset here, or equal it enough anyways. No, not a sore point at all. There's a lot of that going on in the world right now where people are taking extreme harmful views, and I've always been of the feeling that silence is complicity complicity, and again, there's some stuff that like they were into UFOs and all that sort of stuff as well, and that was not harmful. In the past year and a half, couple of years, they really started spouting some stuff that actually was harmful. I don't think they really were in a position personally to harm anyone by the misinformation that they were believing and spreading, um, but they were certainly repeating harmful misinformation, disinformation, propaganda, like literally Russian propaganda, stuff like that, that is circulating within some of these communities. And I'm just like, I can't do this. I can't turn a blind eye to it. And um, you know, yeah, that's just the way it is, right? Um, so, anyways, I will be back. I'm going to go look for uh, that plastic piece, and if not, I will. Um, that's okay. You can say whatever you want. If I don't want to answer, I'm not going to answer. So you can ask. I'm not so concerned about that. Um, Not so Q type stuff, but yeah, maybe closer to flat Earth than anything. But again, I find that just generally irritating as fuck and not necessarily harmful. But it's when that spills over into other stuff that I have a problem. So I'm going to go and crawl around on my hands and knees looking for a very small piece of plastic, and I will be back in a minute. I hope. Well, I'll leave my microphone on. Yeah, yeah. All right, see ya. I did find it. If you're still here. All right, it is way back here. It's under my bookshelf. Now, lesson number N, I guess. Don't lift this thing up. I did find it, and it rolled under the bookshelf. Not surprising. I couldn't see under there, so I actually got a floodlight or spotlight, I guess, and went under to get it. I need to as well get. Yeah, I did find the. Welcome back. I did find the piece that had rolled under my, bounced under my bookshelf. Said they had not followed the lecture in school before they talk about flat Earth. I've never met one that believes in that, but if you do, you'll ask how the satellites are still up in the air flying around. Yeah, exactly. I often think they're just trolling, and if they actually believe it, then I don't know what to say. All right, give me 2 seconds. Hello. So I need an X-Acto knife. I'll just scrape out the inside of this plastic. Ah, shit. Totally scratched it. I don't know. I was feeling particularly ornery, I might polish that out, but to hell with it. I have bigger problems to worry about. That's still tight. All right. I guess we'll. Yeah, it's a very hard plastic. It's very hard to cut into. Your fingernails on a chalkboard moment. Just scraping it like this as well makes it gives it a fairly smooth surface. So yeah, so that moves in there now. All right, let me give it a once over, get some fingerprints off. Yeah, Journey to the Center of the Earth, exactly. You know, airlines plotting the routes of their aircraft, these great circles, these straight lines are not the most efficient means of navigating on a sphere. So just give me 2 seconds. No, I killed everything. I tried to click on something with a mouse and OBS locked up. Hopefully I'm back now. I'm back now. Am I back now? Can you hear me? My video looks like it's... Oh, there we go. No, I'm moving again. All right. So, I tried to click on a button in OBS and, whatever... Sidelink Survivor is still... The installer is still running. So, let me... Well, I have things working. I just should have just stopped it and run it overnight. I didn't think it would be this bad. All right. Yeah, there's so much stupid in the world right now. And again, it's not charming stupid either, it's harmful stupid, so... I don't know. Not feeling great about our species these days. Which, is part of the point, but you kind of wonder. Okay. Oh, for crying out loud. All right. And I'm doing this all wrong. All right. This is a lot easier than I was making it. So this just goes on like this. There we go. Let me get the fingerprints off here. See, this is it. I'm not. I know some very smart people, and I'm certainly not among them. But I try and do what I can with what I have. So other people seem to be deliberately dumbifying themselves. All right, so this goes on like this. These go on over top like that. So that's easy to do. All right. And then these go on to hold it all together. And again, because these screw on, it means that the so the plastic. Let me assemble it here, and I'll talk about it in a second. Otherwise, I'll pick the damn thing up, and everything will go flying all over the place again, and I will hate myself. All right. Okay, so since these screw on, they're screwing onto the bottom screws, and it means that the screws here are kind of captured, and they sit on top of the switches here because they're kind of captured by the plastic in the middle. Again, the bottom offsets don't have threads on them; they're just holes through, so you just drop them on. But because these screw on, I don't know if you can see it or not. You can kind of see that you can see kind of the dark in here where the screw goes up to. So that's how that works. And then this goes on this side. This is actually a bit tricky to get together, if I remember as well, because you kind of have to kind of slide, kind of have to lift, because there's slots where these go into, but you also have to put this horizontal slot into here. So you kind of have to lift these up and work them together. And then this goes on like this. Yeah, so what you want to have is this hole here goes with the 9-volt adapter. This hole here goes for this little loop that is the calibration output. And then this big hole here is for the BNC connector. And again, you kind of have to slide this in there, slide that on there. You kind of have to, I guess you, so this won't go on because the BNC connector is there and it won't let you lift it up far enough to put the thing into the slot. So I'm going to try it this way to see if this can go in like this and then be lifted up, and maybe that might work. I was afraid I was going to have to pull these off and then assemble this on. So let me get that out of the way. It comes down here. It goes on there. Yeah, I'm kind of futzing around with this, and then this side fell off, but it should be fairly simple to get that in there, that in there. Simple. It's going to be simple to do, right? That goes there, that goes there, that goes there. It's got to go in there. There we go. Yay! Again, I was really afraid I was going to have to pull the printed circuit board out to get it all to fit back in there. All right, so let me do another quick wipe of the display. That is. Divoted it? Yeah, I think I scratched it. Is it a scratch or is it something on top? It's a scratch. Oh well. You know, I do my best, right? And then this kind of slides over here. Oops, like that, because this hole is for the let's give this a wipe. Again, using Kim wipes would be better for this. I think I have some, but they're still in a box, so it ain't gonna happen. All right. So this just all goes on like this. There we go. And then these screws here go on the top, and they screw into the threaded offsets. And it's just about 9 o'clock. I started a bit late, but I didn't think this would be a big job. I did talk about some other stuff, so it took about an hour maybe. Get this thing together. And then I have to test it one more time to make sure I haven't screwed anything up by putting it together. 3D jigsaw, that's exactly it. Yeah. I don't think I've never done a 3D jigsaw like that. No. I have seen people do them. I've seen people do them. No, I've seen the results. I've seen people who have done them, but I've never actually seen anyone working on one. So, if all goes well, scope probe, and to hook it up to the test output, grab my 9-volt adapter. Plug it in. I guess I have it upside down, but yeah. All right. So what are we going to do here? So the switch works, as does that one. And this is ground. And it does show that I guess two things here again. I did move the trace to the middle of the grating, so that it was on the center line when I had it on the ground position. And you'll notice that the little arrow here is below the middle position. So I actually had to move it down to be grounded. And that's common with op amps and that sort of thing, that they'll have an input offset. And when you amplify it, Kitecrafter, hello. Things are going very well. How are you doing today? We've had some success. Let me finish this thought first. So with an op amp, often there'll be a small offset on the input, millivolts usually, for instance. But then, because it's an amplifier, whatever error you have on the input is going to be amplified through the device and is going to come out as a larger value. So you could have something like a 1 millivolt offset on your input, and if you have a 10 times amplifier, you're going to have a 10 millivolt offset on your output. Again, if it's a 100 times amplifier, that 1 millivolt is going to be 100 millivolts, so 0.1 volts. And it can be a big problem. What is the waveform that it was detecting just before you swapped it to ground? And I can answer Kitecrafter as well. This was a kit, and it was the bare board when I got it. Printed circuit board. It actually had the surface mount components already soldered on. There was some resistors and capacitors, and the main chips were already soldered onto the board. But then everything else, all the through-hole stuff, I soldered onto the board on stream. I finished that last Thursday, and tonight's stream was to take it and put it inside the acrylic box that came with it. And I had a couple of issues with that, but sorted them out. And so going back to the question, what was that waveform? One of the things that the kit has is it gets you to solder a little loop onto these pads here. Bring it up to you. Let's see here. So you can kind of see there's a little loop of wire that this hole exposes right there. And that's just soldered to the board. And that's connected to an output from the little microcontroller they have on here. And it generates a 1 kilohertz 3.3 volt signal. So what you can do is you can connect your scope up to that to know if it works or not. So this is output from the microprocessor, and I just pressed the reset button as I was talking with my hands. So there's kind of a built-in test capability, and so there's built-in test capability in this. Most oscilloscopes do have some kind of a known output so that you can calibrate your scope probes against it. And that was the same sort of thing here. We had a couple of variable capacitors that we could play with. Did our best. You can still see that the microprocessor is probably outputting a fairly good square wave. But you can kind of see the rounding here and the rounding here. And that is basically because of bandwidth limiting in the input electronics, the op amps and other components they used. Quite possibly the input to the A to D on the microcontroller. And it came pre-programmed. Again, it was soldered onto the board already. I didn't have to do anything. So this is just a kit. And Kitecrafter. This is a knockoff, near as I can tell. I just bought it from China for like 20, 25 bucks or something like that with the case. And I bought the scope probe separately. This was like 5 or 10 bucks. And the actual kit came with This is the input, so a BNC to a pair of alligator clips. And this is really handy to have too. So I really wanted to have a proper scope probe for some signal integrity, because this is shit for signal integrity. But darn, this is going to be useful for audio applications and power supply applications and all kinds of stuff. So again, this came with the kit, and like, thumbs up. This is great. But this is more useful to me in general. The bandwidth on this is about 100 kilohertz. So yeah, I would say this is a knockoff. I did find the original design, and it's just been circulating around. There's like 50 billion different versions of knockoffs of the scope. Yeah, no, it's a debugger. Call it a calibration signal. Is I think the more formal way of putting it. And again, oscilloscopes will have that, and they will often have a very high quality signal to output. And one of the things you can do is you can go in and like it's a known like 1 volt peak to peak kind of thing, or -1 to +1, whatever signal the output. It's going to be very precise to those values, and the frequency is going to be very precise. So you can actually calibrate your scope probes. You can calibrate your scope, and both for time and for voltage, using that output signal. So they're very, very useful. Looking through your 16:2 LCD link, you were talking about it earlier. This little 16:2 LCD screen had is basically a really good learning tool for electronics. One page says it's closing this year with the PIC code. I don't quite understand that. So like, they're going to stop working on it, or they're going to take their website down. Or maybe they've had that there for a while and just never got around to taking it down. Who knows? That is one of the things that, with open source, open hardware, even commercial stuff, is that eventually people get tired of maintaining it. And one of the nice things about open source is that often they'll just release it it's already released into the wild. And if people care enough, they can just take it over themselves and keep it going. Some commercial stuff is released into the wild for other people to take care of. They open source it when they're done selling it, basically, and that allows customers and other people that are relying on it to do the maintenance themselves if they're so inclined, and it kind of lets them off the hook in some ways. And kind of open hardware, not quite as developed as open software in terms of the ecosystem and that sort of thing, but there's quite a bit. Arduino, of course, being the sort of the quintessential open hardware platform, where it's actually legal and okay to make your own version of it, including cloning it directly. This oscilloscope project, I don't know its origins. I don't know if it's proper open hardware, but I can say that whether it is or not, there's probably 50 companies in Asia making it right now. Malicious people edit code, yep. All right, every time you move your probe, you have to calibrate. Every time you move your probe, you have to calibrate, or adjust is the better word, okay? All oscilloscope types have different capacity. Yeah, that's for sure. Highly stolen. That was the general impression I had with this. I could not find a commercial site that sold this as the sort of the OG oscilloscope thing. So highly stolen appeared to be the way that this was working. Yeah. And I've bought genuine Arduinos, and I've bought clone Arduinos, and I do my best to support people that are doing development and that sort of thing. So kind of a mix of things. yeah, actually, and one of the things that was kind of interesting is in doing this project, um, really had me wondering, like, again, one of the things that, because I built one last year, so this is a new one. And again, this is going to, but this is my home kit. This is going to be my porta kit. Um, and yeah, I can run this off a 9-volt battery too. As I was wondering if I could hook them up together and synchronize them so that you could actually have a 2-channel thing. And because of the microprocessor design, their analog to digital converter in particular, that's actually impossible with this particular chip, which is kind of sad. So I was wondering maybe using a different chip, in another little ARM processor system on a chip or something like that, and kind of doing the same idea as this, but maybe up the bandwidth for one thing, but also have it so that you can have a sync cable between multiple units and actually build like a multi-channel oscilloscope. We've seen many open hardware that are shit because they're made by software people or they do not want to copy one for one. Hey! Oh my god. I started the install of the Xilinx Vivado FPGA software development platform shortly after 6. The actual download was 24 gigabytes, the installation file. And so through all of the stream, it's been kind of running. And again, we've lost video, we've lost audio through this because it decided it wanted all the CPU for itself for a while. It finally stopped. So it said that it was probably for this entire stream, so for about an hour and a half, it basically said that it was optimizing disk space. I don't know. Total pain in the arse. So the but anyways, it finally stopped and asked me if I want to install some device drivers for hardware debugging tools and that sort of thing. I'm just going to let it sit there. It can wait for me now. And when I wrap up the stream, I'll say okay and continue going. But yeah, I did have to, I am reinstalling my computer from scratch because one of the hard drive that I had in there, just my desktop, was beginning to fail. So I put in a new hard drive, did a clean Windows install, and I'm reinstalling all of my software on it, or anything that I want to keep on it basically, which is a fair amount. And some of the packages, again, like Xilinx Vivado, are beasts. They're huge freaking things. One of the nice things is that I am a student at a university, and I'm also staff at a university, so I'm kind of both. But as a student, I can basically get a lot of licenses for free as a student. They usually only last a year, something like that. But as long as you stay a student, you can keep renewing them, and so you can learn this stuff. One of the ones that I'm particularly pleased with is Autodesk Inventor, which is a 3D parametric mechanical modeling system. And I've used these before, and I've used AutoCAD as well. I hate AutoCAD with a burning passion. Like there's some software like Photoshop makes no sense to me at all. I try and use it. I'm just like, what is this? Same sort of thing with, again, most CAD software. Well, some of them not so bad, but yeah, AutoCAD in particular has always been the bane of my existence. And I've used some other 3D parametric systems, and went to use, when I worked at Carleton in the physics department, the mechanical engineering team they had used Autodesk Inventor, and I didn't really know about it before then. So I figured, okay, well, if they're using this, I should probably use it too. I was doing electronics, and I was also doing some mechanical stuff. And so I fired it up and I did the tutorials and I learned it. I was just like, this is so nice. So the fact that I can use Inventor for doing sketches and stuff. It can't be for any commercial purpose. It has to be, learning and research and that sort of thing. But uh, I use it all the time. It is so nice. One of the things that I'm doing. So yeah, so there's that, and that was a huge freaking pain to install. Again, some of these packages are just monsters. Stuff like Studio One, Presonus, Studio One software as well. Just a giant beast. But yeah, I'm almost done the beastly software, and it's a lot of audio plugins and stuff like that, and some video editing software that have left to do, and those are a huge pain in the arse as well, because each thing kind of has to be downloaded, installed, licensed, and individually. They have some wrappers for some of them, but like there's 15 different companies, so you have to use each different company's thing. Oh yeah, if you are interested, storage drives. So let me go back here. Does it have an external trigger like all other scopes? This does not have an external trigger. If this had an external trigger, then I would be able to use it again in that ganged configuration where I could generate my own trigger. I could build a little trigger unit to then trigger all the scopes that were connected to it. I could have as an N-channel oscilloscope for $25 a channel. This does not have an external trigger, unfortunately. It's actually a software trigger. So what they do is they just have a continually running ADC, and they use software to read the input, and they trigger in the software. And because the ADC on this chip, it's an ST microelectronics microcontroller, they run it off of a phase lock loop inside the chip, and the output from the phase lock loop and the timing that goes into the ADC, there's no way to route that out of the chip. So again, each chip is its own little universe, and it can't really be expanded. If the software were modified, and you can find the firmware, it should be possible to use one of the I/O pins and run it to the outside and use it as a trigger, because the trigger's being done in software anyways. So, or is it? Let me see. Maybe it is hardware. Maybe we could rig up a external trigger. All right. What do we have here? No, it does look like I have an external trigger. And there's a test point here as well. So this claims it's a trigger. And this is the trigger level. Oh yeah, I remember how this works now. Okay, so yeah, so here's your input chain for the actual signal that goes into your ADC. So it says ADC and up here. Yeah, I kind of forgot how this thing worked. So that's your input there, and that goes into the thing. So let me stop here for a second, read the chat. Yeah. Fragmenting hard drive. Please wait. Absolutely. There's like 55,000 like microscopic files on here. Of course, the allocation blocks are all 4K, so I'm sure that like 80% of the space is wasted. The only label on one side of the sensor. Yeah, so it's hard to find out what it's connected to. So it's not like AutoCAD at all. Autodesk Inventor, whoever was responsible for Inventor, I'm presuming they bought it from another company. It's an absolutely glorious package. Nothing like AutoCAD. It's owned by the same people, but nothing like AutoCAD. And it does almost everything I wanted it to do. One of the things that I actually had to do for one of the projects. It's actually installed now in Snow Lab, 2 kilometers under the earth, observing looking for neutrinoless double beta decay to find out whether the neutrino is its own antiparticle. Is what it's being used for. But one of the things that I wanted to do, because it was being installed in Snow Lab, in a laboratory like that, I really wanted it to be professional. So I wanted to do a silkscreen overlay on the panel. So it was a 19-inch rack mount box, and everything went inside it. And I wanted it to have like proper lettering on the front. So I designed the lettering, and it turns out that with Autodesk Inventor, you can't do an overlay. There's no way to output like a text film to do that with. So what I had to do was take the front panel and do my text in Autodesk Inventor, bring it over to AutoCAD, flatten it, and then kind of slice through the text and just extract like the top layer of text. I mean, the text is 3D in Autodesk Inventor. So you just kind of like take the surface of the text and import that into AutoCAD, and then you can use that then to generate a Gerber file. Is it a Gerber? Might have been a Gerber. I don't remember what the output file format was, but it was a 2D output format that they could then print to film, and then use that film to expose the silkscreen, and then do the silkscreen on the front panel. We only made one. It was very expensive to do, but again, because it was going into that kind of environment, and safety and clarity and all that sort of stuff is really, really important. It was worth doing that. So great program. It does almost everything I've ever asked to do. The one thing that I could not do with it was generate the film for a silkscreen. Used to know a little bit of Photoshop due to the digital art back in secondary school, but forgot most of it. Yeah, if you've ever done it before, and the thing with these particular software packages, and AutoCAD is the same sort of way, is there's a philosophy to them. There's a way you have to think to use the tool. Otherwise, you're just fighting with it constantly. So maybe if I used it long enough, or I apprenticed with someone that was using it, or I took a course on it or something like that, maybe it would come to me, and I'd feel more natural with it, because I would, okay, stop fighting with it. This is the way it wants you to do things. Do it this way. And you really have to be in that mindset for these programs to work for you. And I know people are just like, one woman I follow on Twitch, she does painting is mostly what she does, but she's also a fabric designer. And what she does is she'll do a pattern, or she'll paint a pattern, or create a pattern some other way, and then bring that pattern into Photoshop and tile it and stretch it or do other stuff with it to basically make the fabric pattern. And again, she's just like, bop, 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 bop. It's like, black magic to me. So yeah, some of the UI is so poorly designed. It's an old program, and that's kind of part of the problem with AutoCAD as well, is these are old software packages, and a lot of the design ideas that were forced on them in some ways because of the lack of computing power, memory, that sort of thing, have kind of stayed to today because people got used to using them. And if they change those interfaces, then the people that are like expert users, who are the people that buy lots of licenses, wouldn't be able to use them as effectively, and they would maybe go looking at another product. So kind of makes sense. How big are your storage drives? Well, in my desktop computer, I had a 1 terabyte in there. I added a 4 terabyte, which is now my main drive that I reinstalled onto. The 1 terabyte's still in there. I still need to get all my data off of it. Haven't had a chance to do that. I'll probably do it on the weekend, assuming it doesn't completely die before then. I'm hoping not. So there's kind of a race against time, so I'll hopefully start on it. But get all the data off of it, and then I'm going to pull it out of the system and wipe it and bin it, basically. And by wiping it, I mean literally like write zeros to every byte on the hard drive. It's going to take a week. don't know. But so that I can scrap it and I won't have any data on. If you're really good, you could potentially take the can apart, get the disk, and then go in with various tools that can detect the residual magnetic fields that weren't quite totally erased. If you want to do that to my data, have at it. I've got nothing of use on there for you to require that kind of effort. So I'm not so concerned, but it's just a general general practice of me, because I've worked in IT. You erase your hard drives, you hard erase them. You don't format them. You go in and you write a byte to every single byte. Either zeros. You can also use random number generation or whatever, depending on how anal you're feeling about it. I've done both. My own stuff, I just write zeros. For some commercial stuff, I've used random numbers. I worked for a company, a very large company, in their ID department, and for many years. And I found out that they were scrapping their systems without erasing the hard drives. Like, you could go to surplus stores and buy the equipment from this company, and everything would still be on the hard drives. I couldn't get out of there fast enough, let me tell you. I think after I raised a major stink all the way up the executive chain, anytime they recycle a system now, they take the hard drive and I think they throw it into a chipper. So they're good now, but just like jaw-dropping. Yeah, so I think that's it actually. External trigger, make your own trigger. So maybe that can be my next project. Is I will take 2 oscilloscopes and build an external trigger box based on the signal coming into them that will issue a trigger to both of them, and it can basically select which one you want the trigger from, and it'll send a trigger to both. Or I could use, I guess what I could do is I could actually use the trigger from one unit and use it to trigger the other. So basically what you'd have is a switch. So I might not even need to do anything really. This might be really easy to do now that I think about it, and I'll tell you how I'm going to do it now that we've talked about it. So thanks for poking me on that. So yeah, making on trigger. Pretty sure your school had an old version of AutoCAD or something for making designs for the laser cutter. Yeah, AutoCAD, near as I can tell, like for that kind of thing, AutoCAD is ideal, because what you're doing is drawing lines anyways, right? You're not building 3D models. You really just want to do a 2D pattern, and it just cuts through. So, water cutters or laser cutters. EXF. Is that the format for the for AutoCAD or whatever? Yeah. Adobe do it on purpose so that you acclimate to only their software. Oh, absolutely. If you have a wonky user interface and it's industry standard, you really want to run with that, because it is the thing that is tying people to your product. So I 100% believe that. So yeah, so I got a 4 terabyte in there now. I had a 1 terabyte before. It wasn't big enough for the video work that I'm doing. And I actually have an external 4 terabyte on there now as well. And I'm recording all of my video to the external 4 terabyte for now. We'll see how that goes. Because the yeah, but again, with the desktop, I only have it's just a regular, just a hard drive, and I back up or I fuck up basically. So if I lose my data, I lose my data because I've only got it on one drive. If I don't back up, so I try and back stuff up frequently for most of the stuff that I have. Certainly for all of the valuable projects and everything, the server. I have a file server in the basement, and it's basically a bunch of 1 terabyte drives in 1+1 RAID. So presumably, if one of the hard drives fails, I have it on the other one. I can install a new hard drive, migrate my volume groups over to it, and reduplicate that data, then probably replace out the other drive before it fails and put a new drive in there. I can also install larger drives. So one of the things that I want to do is, I've got 1 terabyte. I've got a few pairs of 1 terabyte drives in there now, and I just buy them as I need them. Like I don't have, it's not a big massive storage thing or anything like that. It's just a few disks, but I just, when disks are cheap, sometimes it's the best way to do it. I'm going to be putting some 4 terabytes, maybe larger drives even into the server as well. Just because if I'm doing video, it needs a lot of space. I'm quite honestly shocked at how much space video is taking because I've never really done video before. So, anyways, live and learn, right? And it's $100 Canadian with tax for a 4 terabyte Seagate now. So, it's not cheap, right? It's not free, but it's not $1,000. So every few months, or at least once a year, I can buy a couple of drives. Save money up for them. Storage space, yeah, 500 gig SSD. SSDs are great, and they suck. I've worked with systems that had SSDs in them, and presuming it was a desktop at least, one of the first things that I would do is I was always order, it's working for someone else, I could use their money. I'd order in a larger drive and stick that in there as well. So you use SSD for, the booting and data you're accessing all the time, and then everything else goes on to the mechanical drive. It's really inexpensive by comparison. All the companies, oh shit, that's not good. All the companies' valuable data. I couldn't care less about the company's data, but it wasn't just the company's data on there. It was other data on there as well. I'm just like, you fuck ups. What the actual hell are you doing? So yeah, that got fixed. So by the time I left, that was no longer an issue. Do you know DBAN open source hard drive erasing bootable tool? No, I do not. Yeah. I'm not a big cloud fan. I always like to have my own copy of the data. But they're certainly here where this is not really valuable data in a lot of ways. Like if I edit together, the process of assembling this thing and putting the case together and do a nice little video of that, do a voiceover or whatever on it, and just kind of put that up there. It's still not particularly, it could be useful for somebody, but it's not like, oh, this is really valuable stuff and we're learning something new here. It's just kind of fun, and if someone else is building something similar, maybe it'll give them a couple of hints. So if YouTube decides, hey, we're gonna go out of business because we hate you and all your data's gone, have a nice day, I won't be too heartbroken by it. But certainly editing it down like that, and maybe getting rid of my originals if I really don't need them anymore, and I probably won't. Having a local copy of the thing I upload to YouTube, that's not a lot of space. It's the raw files. Like it's about 50 gig per stream as it stands now. I'm doing 1080p, and TMKDK made a good case for heading down to lower resolution. I think I switched to 30 frames a second for this stream, and that's certainly going to have the file size. So, yeah, always wipe a disk before selling them. Like 101, like there's a lot of computer security 101 stuff that this place wasn't doing. I'm like, Bought a pre-build because you were lazy. If you built your own desktop, you'd use a smaller SSD for just the OS and stuff, and then a large, hard disk drive. Yeah, nothing lazy about it. If you can get the computer that you want, pre-made, off the shelf, whatever, with the features you need, it's going to be less expensive than trying to build one yourself. Why would you do that? I bought an HP laptop, and I got some additional features on it because it was cheaper and easier to let them build it for me than it was for me to then tear it apart and hack it. So yeah, absolutely no shame in buying off the shelf one. If you're doing some mega gaming system or something like that, then you're probably going to want to roll your own. Although even some companies like Alienware and stuff are actually in the business of putting together brutish PCs. So yeah, don't be sad about that. So here's how this works. All right. So this is an op amp, but it is in a comparator configuration. So what happens is you take the input that is going into your ADC that your processor is reading out for your digital oscilloscope, and you grab it right out of the op amp here, and that is your input into the trigger. And then this is the trigger voltage here, the trigger level. And the trigger level is generated in a really funky way. I personally wouldn't do it this way, but maybe this thing doesn't have a D to A converter, so there might not be a digital to analog converter, but it has an analog to digital converter. And I've seen that the PSOC 4200 has some digital to analog converters, but one of them is 6-bit and one of them is 8-bit, and both of them are current out instead of voltage out. And they're mostly intended, like they're put on the chip basically, for their capacitive touch sensing capability. Not really, you can use them generally as well, but they're really not that, they're not great for general purpose digital to analog. So I'm guessing this thing may not have had that either. So what they have here is trigger level, TL_PWM, and PWM is pulse width modulation. So what they're doing is they have a digital signal on this pin, and they're switching it on and off, 0 to 3.3 volts, on, off, 0 to 3.3. And it's going through this resistor and capacitor, which is basically a filter. And what's happening is that filter it's a low pass filter, so it's eliminating, to the best of its abilities, the high frequency component of this switching digital signal. And on the other side of it here, the only thing that's left is again, this is hypothetically, it's not going to be this good. The only thing left on the other side of it is the DC component. So basically, the way that you can think about it is that if you switch this on for 50% of the time and off for 50% of the time, and do it fast enough, say, at a 100 kilohertz or something, I don't know, then again, if it's on for 50% of the time and off for 50% of the time, then you will actually get, on the other side here, the trigger level is going to be half of 3.3 volts, because you're integrating the power over time as opposed to regulating the power or regulating the voltage directly. So you're generating a voltage from a time switched digital signal. Class D amplifiers and stuff now. So if you ever buy like a 40-50 watt amplifier that's this big, it's a digital amplifier, and what they're doing is they're using digital switching. They actually switch the speakers on and off. They don't have an analog signal anymore. And what they're doing is they're using the inductance and mechanical limitations of the speaker cone to integrate the pulsed output that they're generating, and they use a pulse width modulation. So if you think about it, if you leave your pulse on 100% of the time, it's just 3.3 volts. If you leave it off 100% of the time, it's 0 volts. If you switch it on and off 50% of the time, you're going to get 1.65 volts, so 3.3 volts divided by 2. And depending on how much on versus off you have, you can get any voltage between 0 and 3 volts at this spot. So, and that's what, so when I go here, yeah, so when this is selected, this is the trigger level, and I can move it up or down. And so what'll happen is, for instance, if I go here, it shouldn't be triggering. Yeah, it's not triggering. You can see that the green light is off because it's a very low voltage. But if I move my trigger down, to within where that waveform is, that means that the signal is moving past the trigger voltage, and you can see that the green LED is flashing again. So, and they're doing that using pulse width modulation. So what I could do to tie these two together, let's do a design now, is I can use independent trigger levels on both of them. Can I do that? Yeah, I can still vary the trigger levels independently, but then what I could do is I could come in and I could go to test point 3 here, and if I cut this trace, it means that if I wanted to say this is scope 1, this is scope 2, or channel 1, channel 2, what I could do is if I wanted to use channel 1 as my trigger, then what I could do is I would short this point to the wire. So basically, reconnect it again, and that would be sending a trigger here. But I could also take a wire off of this and send it to channel 2 and put it into its trigger. So basically, the trigger from channel 1 would drive this point and that same point on channel 2. And if I wanted to trigger off of channel 2, I would switch it so that on channel 1, this would be connected to test point 4 on channel 2, and on channel 2, this point would be connected to itself, so test point 4 on itself. So what I could do is I could hack these together. Hey, Ezra Pizza, good to see you. Yeah. I need to get out more often. So absolutely, I could probably tie 2 of these together and turn it into a 2-channel or an N-channel oscilloscope, basically up to a point, anyways, because there'll be a current drive limit here. I could put in a fast. I could put in a very, very fast higher current buffer here as well if I wanted, and then drive many of them. But I think 2 or 4 would be pretty cool. So there's a pen. So note to self, if I cut this wire and bring this and this out to a switch, it means that I would be able to connect multiple of these together. And the switch could be electronic as well. I might make it fancy, but yeah, that'd be a fun little project. All right. eSATA that run parallel data and faster. Yeah. Many games use them yet. NVMe, SSD, yeah. Might be deja vu, yeah. Deja vu all over again, as the saying goes. Working and lurking. Well, I hope you're having a good night, Ezra Pizza. Yeah, Kitecraft, there you go. So if I've done nothing tonight at all, I've let you know how you can do your own two-channel scope for $50 or $40 or however cheap you can get your own scopes, and you just have to find out where that point is. So if you can get to this point and this point, cut that point and have a connector on either side. You've got the ability to have a multi-channel oscilloscope where you get to pick which one is the trigger source, and it will trigger all of them simultaneously. And that's pretty cool. So now I can answer the reason. See, I'll answer this now, right? The reason why I have two oscilloscopes is so that I can figure out how to co-trigger them together so I can get a two-channel digital oscilloscope for the price of two of these very simple one-channel oscilloscopes, right? Yeah. Hold on. I need to shovel some more here. I think in the back of my mind, I thought that might be possible, and I was wondering if it would be possible, but I really did buy them as two single-channel oscilloscopes because I'd used them in two different places, presumably. Also at the time, I think I was trying to teach someone how to use electronics, and I thought, okay, well, I'll buy one of these and give it away. Give it away now. So, no, you don't get two curves on the same display. So, but you do get synchronized traces, although you can't overlay them that way. If you're feeling particularly ornery, firmware is available for these, and there's absolutely nothing stopping you from connecting up the processor on this to the processor on this using yeah, so so the transmit and receive, so there's a 3-pin header here, and it's ground, transmit, and receive. What you could do is you could tie a connector between these two, and what that would do is it would connect transmit and receive between the two processors. You'd want to flip them. So transmit goes to receive, receive goes to transmit. And find out if there's some high-speed interface you can implement on that. And even if not, one of the things that you can do is, because this is only updating, maybe 30 times a second at most, maybe 60, who knows, but it's not updating very fast. To get an entire buffer of data from one processor to the other and then overlaying it on the same display should be entirely possible. There's no reason why you couldn't do that. And as a matter of fact, it's probably possible, depending on how many you had, probably up to 4, but certainly with 2, that they could send their data both ways so that both of them had the same data on them, so they would overlay. Although you might want to do this one's in yellow, maybe this one's going to, so the signal from this one, maybe you want to keep in yellow, and maybe the signal from this one, if you can copy the buffer data over to here, do it in blue or something else, right? So you can kind of compare them side by side, but then have this one blue, and then the data from this channel yellow on here. So again, the color's consistent across all of the displays. One of the things that would be pretty funky as well is if you took these, let me just disconnect this so it's easier to move around. So if you took these and placed them back to back, for instance, and we're looking at stuff, you could see the scope yourself, But if you're trying to demonstrate something, then everyone else could see the other scope facing the other way. So I'll make a note on here as well. Firmware revision with respect to sharing and overlaying buffer data between units. So there we go. This would be the kind of thing that, if I could get it working, and I'd certainly, I'd post it on YouTube, but it's also might make a good magazine article or something like that. Because again, you can buy these for, they're cheaper than food now, basically. I'm presuming they can still make them. I presume they've got millions of them in their warehouses and stuff. But all of these chips, especially the microcontrollers and stuff, are really hard to get right now. You make me sad. Yeah, two displays that have to be on the same setting to make any sense. One of the things, certainly if you were able to do that communication thing between them, one of the things that's possible is you could send these, at very least, no, the time base is common across them. The voltage levels and stuff is all done in analog, and there's no reporting of that over to the other one. So there might need to be some coordination here, or you just make that a limitation of setting it, as if you have them set to different voltage settings or whatever, then you get the results you get. They'll be on the same time base because you'd need to set the time bases the same. So I guess that's it as well, as if you're using the triggering system that I was talking about, ideally you would want to use the same time base on both. They're always going to be slightly off again because they're using crystals, individual crystals on each side and phase lock loops and stuff for doing the timing. But they're close enough. Again, it's a toy, it's a hobbyist sort of thing. And doing this stuff would be more fun than practical. Yeah, 2 channels, about $200 Canadian, for a good scope. Again, these are not great. You seem like the kind of person who would already have a decent scope. Why am I messing around with these, right? Because these are fun. They're not as practical in some ways. There's a little impracticality to them, but they're very, very inexpensive. And again, to have a single channel scope that I can kind of use on very simple circuits, audio circuits, and I can kind of like carry it around very easily. I can power it off a 9-volt battery if I want. I've got the clips that'll plug in here. Again, use them for Arduinos, you can plug them in here. Same connector. So there's some value in having these cheapo little ones. But you can get an okay scope for a couple of $100. Again, this is a tenth of that. So there's some value in finding out what you can do with very inexpensive hardware, and trying to share that knowledge around. In terms of scopes, I don't have a great scope. I have an old analog scope, 30 megahertz, 2-channel, component tester built in, and you can drive it XY. One of the things I've always wanted to do is actually do do some vector type games and use the oscilloscope's XY voltage inputs to actually drive them. There's some projects out there that you can find that let you do that sort of thing. Certainly easy with today's microprocessors and stuff. You can drive them separately. And I know there's a lot of YouTube's stuff as well where people do art and stuff using the XY, driving a CRT, or effectively driving a CRT with an XY voltage. So yeah, so DSO 138 is the only one you have. It's helped you find a few bugs in projects. That's exactly it. And as long as you're not trying to debug at microprocessor speeds, you're doing I/O, you're doing audio, that sort of thing, these oscilloscopes are going to be very useful. Even when I'm doing debugging of microprocessor stuff, what I'll do is I will use an I/O pin or something like that, and I'll drive it at lower frequencies. So, for instance, if an event happens, I'll output a pulse that's slow enough for a slow scope like this to see, and I can use that as a debugging tool to kind of see into the firmware. If I don't have an in-circuit emulator or a debugger, if it's just you download the firmware to the processor, run it, does it work or not? Well, then you try to use indirect ways to try and debug that. You can't use it for adjusting. Can't use it for adjusting output power amplifier in a B class. Okay. I did not know that. I don't know as much about analog as I do about digital. So some of the stuff that I'm doing with audio and, I have to repair that mixer. That's going to be a task because I'm just not familiar with it. So it's part of is learning some of that stuff as well for me. Alien wavelengths. Still use analog logic analyzer in USB form. Yeah, so and this is part of the problem. When I was learning electronics, getting a kit and building a clock or something like that, or a radio, was pretty freaking cool because often you could do it cheaper than you could buy one commercially. But again, you kind of learned in the process. But everything now is just black boxes, and even this. I mean, I put this in makers and creators because there's no technology involved. I'm screwing and assembling and 3D puzzling and stuff like that. Even assembling the printed circuit board here, I'm just assembling. I'm using liquid metal, sure, but it's not technology. That's just liquid metal. If I was brazing a cup or something like that, I mean, it's liquid metal and you're assembling it, and so it's the same sort of idea. Again, I kind of oscillate between the two, but certainly if I go and I start working on trying to synchronize these things up, that goes in the science and technology stream, or category, because I'll actually be doing engineering type work, so we're creating something new. I just think of this as knitting. I'm building a model, I'm putting something together, and I don't have to, I have to do some problem solving again, and the washers and stuff for the case, I problem solved the last time I built one, so I was able to do it like very, very fast this time. But unless I'm doing that, creative thought process sort of thing, I'm just building something, which I enjoy doing. As part of why I'm doing it is that I derive pleasure from doing it. It's just a fun activity. I'm doing something with my hands. It's quiet. It's peaceful. Sometimes frustrating, but sometimes not. So, logic reader, 8-bit that works on the same PC interface. Yeah, so a lot of stuff, there's a lot of stuff out there as well that, again, I go to, I rummage AliExpress and Banggood and all that sort of stuff, and I'm just like, you can get this stuff. I mean, again, I could have bought this assembled for $30 or something like that, so, $5 or $10 more than I got this for. But the whole purpose of it was to actually have a kit, and I'll have something useful at the other end. The diorama that I'm building, the model, it's useful in the sense that it's going to be pretty, and is going to improve the space that I live in to have it on display. Maybe it'll make a good gift. Um, but again, the purpose is in a lot of ways in the building of it. And that, again, that's one of the reasons why I'm streaming more often now, is so that I set this time aside for doing this, what I consider to be fun stuff. I should probably wrap up because it is 10 o'clock and I'm supposed to stop streaming at 9, and I'm supposed to be getting to bed soon because I'm having an awful time with attempting to work full days after being off for so long. I'm also still not, seems like I'm not 100% recovered either, I guess. I may never be. I'm pretty sure a lot of this is permanent damage. Isn't that nice? Thank you, the Ontario government, for that, and other world governments. Which one was an angle? USB logic, SCM 24 megahertz, 8 channel, 24 megasamples per second logic analyzer debugger. Still finishing the model. Yeah, I can show you what I'm got on that. So 2 streams ago, I finished the house. And the thatched cottage, thatched roof. And on the last stream, I was able to make the oven. And it has a pot with a handle. These are basically studs that get put into like fabric or leather. And you clip a couple of the prongs off of them that get put through the fabric and bend them in, and here you bend them to the side. There we go. To make little pot handles. And there's like a noodle pot. There's a dishcloth on there hanging on a wire. The dishcloth is 0.3 millimeters wide, and a little plate. 2 chairs, each one of them about 1 centimeter across. Oh yes, and I had to upholster the seat cushion. There is a shelf that's going to go on the back wall. And it has 2 plates, some kind of container up there. There's a pot hanging from it, so like a pan. Again, it's one of those studs that gets put into fabric or leather, and you trim off 3 of them and bend one of the leads on it, or the prongs on it, and then a 0.4 by 0.4 centimeter hanging dishcloth, and then a table with a flower arrangement and a plate of fruit with a tablecloth. Those items in here took me basically 4 hours to do, almost 4 hours to do on Sunday. So this model is going to take a long time to finish. Tomorrow night, I want to work on it a little bit more, and I'll be doing, I did these, the shelf, oven, chair, and table. I'm going to put the bed together. I would like to maybe do the wall as well. So one of the things that you have to do is they have, like literally some of these are like real plants. They're dried and safe or whatever to export, but they come kind of as a plant, right, as a string, and they're dyed. You actually have to clip each one of these little things off, and then combine it with these things. There's some plastic bits in here too, but you actually have to make your own gardening and stuff. You have to build that yourself, the different things on there. I've never done anything like this before in my life, so this is new and exciting. I do have to say that when I got to doing the flower arrangement on this table, which is like 0.4 centimeters tall or some freaking thing, I think I actually started having like anxiety, like panic attacks on on this. It is crazy, man. So, um, so yeah, I should be doing that tomorrow night. I'll be streaming again Thursday, and I don't know quite what I'll be doing Thursday yet. I'll try and announce it tomorrow, I guess. Um, One of the things you can do is if you look at the about for my stream, I have made the Discord link available. So if you want to join the Discord, I will be starting to announce. There's no one there right now, so I'm not really doing anything, but I will be starting to announce a little bit more precisely what I'm planning to do each night, because Twitch doesn't really allow you to tailor your schedule. So it says, this particular project this day, this particular project this way. They really want you to just have a, every Tuesday you do the same thing. So Thursday, yeah, I don't know quite yet. I might work on the model some more. I might start on the PDP-11 build. I might start looking at one of the other projects I have as well. In particular, I really would love to get that Behringer mixer back together. And if I can't fix the amplifier, then I'm going to try and buy another one and just jam it into the box, because it is useful to have. And then at some point in time, it could be Thursday, or it could be Saturday, maybe even Sunday, I don't know. My eldest is going to come over and teach me their particular way of making noodles. So there'll be a cooking stream at some point in the next week or so, I think. And again, I'm going to kind of oscillate between doing model building, engineering of various kinds. I've got some other projects that I want to maybe start tackling, but I'm trying to tackle some of the like the assembly type stuff to get it done, because I've bought the kits. I might as well make them. And again, doing that, then the diorama that I'm working on, and then cooking. Might even start doing some engineering, like material science or physics and that sort of thing. I don't know. And I will be reading stories again sometime. Probably on the weekends and the evenings, maybe during the week. I don't know. We'll have to talk about it, and certainly I'm open for discussion. Again, I know that some of you have already said that you're only interested in certain kinds of content, and 100% with that. And one of the things that I'm hoping to do is to come up with a schedule so that you know when the content that you like is going to be on. I'm a little bit random still. Maybe as hell. Yeah, I'm wondering if I need a magnifier. I can still see it fine, but I was going cross-eyed there at the end. I like all the fake data have on light in general, 1 watt. Oh, lumens. They have on AliExpress. Oh, geez. Yeah, take anything that they say about the product with a grain of salt. That's for bloody sure. And yeah, some of the things that they sell in there probably don't want to buy anyways. They have tritium lights, literally radioactive light tubes. They said they could ship to Canada. I'm not sure I would want to do that. I'm not sure I want to be on those lists. That sort of thing. So yeah, they got some really wacky stuff on there. One of the things that I keep ending up looking at, and I'll finish up with this, is their container housing, modular housing. Sorry, that was what I wanted to say. Going back to Autodesk Inventor, the I joined the small house builders consortium or something like that. It's quite affordable, and one of the things they had was full 3D CAD models of shipping containers, and as a so one of the people I follow from Toronto, Kate Catastrophe, absolutely brilliant woman, very funny but also very political, very smart, and she posted at one point that with the price of housing in Toronto, that really her only hope was to actually buy her funeral plot and build a house on it and live in there until she died, basically. And that was the only chance that she was ever going to have of actually having a piece of land, um, and any type of housing. I kind of ran with that. I thought it was very funny, and threw the idea over to my eldest, who loves to design things, and they put together. They got the dimensions wrong, but they basically put together a house, and it was like 36 feet high, and it fit on two grave plots. You had to go double wide, but basically you built up. So I basically gave them, it has to be this by this maximum, and you can build as high as you want. So they did that, and they actually came up with something that like I'd like to live there. I mean, this looks really nice. And then I went and I looked at some stuff, and I realized that if you took two shipping containers, stood them on their end, welded them together, bolted them to the ground, made it safe structurally and that sort of thing, that it was about the same footprint. And again, we looked at furniture and stuff like that, and if you did that, you'd actually have a really interesting, very vertical house. But you could actually have things like 10 or 12-foot ceilings, with windows all around it. So it wouldn't be like living in a spaceship or a tin can or anything like that. It could actually be very nice and airy and quite pleasant to live in. But the bed kind of like zoops up against the wall or turns into a couch or whatever. I mean, you'd all have that you know flip furniture and that sort of thing in it. Smaller kitchen, but we realized you could even have like a fully functional kitchen in that size of a thing. And because you've got multiple stories, I think there was like 4 stories in it. My idea was just to put a ladder up the side inside, but we realized later there's some pneumatic elevators that you could take up about the same size. So you could actually, as you get older, or if you're injured or something like that, you could put one of these pneumatic elevators in where you didn't want to climb up a ladder, and you could actually go up and down the floors that way too. So all of these things to say that I'm now interested in this, and one of the things that I want to do, and I might even do it on stream, is to try and design a structurally sound container house, but vertical instead of horizontal. All the back to AliExpress. One of the things I love looking at on there is all of their container houses and modular houses and that sort of thing. And then the food trucks. I love looking at their food trucks on AliExpress, and they're like, $3,000 for a full thing on wheels. And yeah, so I end up there once in a while as well. So yeah, 1-seat elevator. Yeah. Yeah, with storage containers, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Well, they say they ship radioactive material. Again, I'm not sure how far it would make it into the country. My greatest fear is that no one would notice at the border, and it would arrive at my front doorstep, um, in a little unshielded box. So, uh, yeah, exactly. And the pictures and stuff they use are nothing like what they're actually selling. Um, Rent them out on the cheap. Um, yeah, the verticality is kind of the difference, and it's the crazier of the ideas because um, what did someone say here? Um, yeah, what about the wind and all the steps when you get old? So um, one of the things that you can do in Inventor is do finite element analysis. So once the structure is designed, I can actually apply wind forces and earthquakes and stuff to it to see, whether it has any resonances, whether it's strong enough to survive the uh, reasonable amounts of wind. Although we had a derecho through here this summer that absolutely devastated the place. Never seen anything like it in my life. And yeah, if we're going to be getting more of those, then this is going to have to handle a lot more wind than I had originally thought. But we could even do guy wires if it comes to that. But there's these simulations can be run, and certainly if I were to try and get a building permit to actually build one of these freaking things, which I'd like to do, and it may be the only chance I ever have of having a house as well, is get a piece of land and build my own. That was bugging me. There we go. It's beautifully even now. But yeah, so we can do structural analysis on it, and that would be one of the things that I would have to demonstrate in order to get a building permit. Some places you can build without a permit, or well, you buy the land and you don't need a approval on your design basically to build whatever you want on that land. There are places in Canada where you can do that, but it's really far away from everything else. But if I wanted to get a proper building permit and get it approved and zoned and all that sort of stuff, then I really would have to demonstrate its safety. And one of the things you can do as well with the, and it would have solar, and it would have wood on the outside, so it wouldn't be an eyesore and all that sort of stuff. So there's a bunch of stuff that we've already kind of thought of. And so one of the features actually that I had requested was that there be a telescope on the roof. But my eldest, being who they are, decided that what the roof really needed. So there's a kind of a, there's a railing all around, so it's safe. They were able to put in a bar, like a tiki bar almost, and an onsen, like a Japanese onsen type hot tub, and the telescope. So, you're good. So yeah, just the idea of having hot tub up on the roof really appeals to me as well. Yeah. So there's my wild ideas for the night. And again, I might do some of that design work on stream because I kind of wrangled the program a bit. This is way beyond my ability, so I'd be really learning as I went. Certainly to do the, I understand how to do the finite element analysis conceptually, and I know how to wrangle the math and that sort of stuff, but I've never done it before, so that would be totally new to me as well. And one of the reasons why I'd like to learn that is for my idea on how to get into space, orbit in particular, on the cheap as well. I will save that story for another stream, but certainly having finite element analysis would be critical to survival in that particular case, especially considering how crazy the idea is. So, on that note, here's the thing, is if you already know all the answers, you're not going to ask the questions. If you're not going to get it wrong, then you're not going to learn anything. Like, not that you have to get things wrong to learn, but if you're not willing to make mistakes, if you're not willing to fail, if you're not willing to have a crazy idea that maybe doesn't pan out, and goodness knows I have a lot of them daily, some of them big, some of them really big messes, then there's no room for innovation. So, maybe it's not the best idea, and you can realize, okay, that was not a great idea. But if you're not asking the questions and you're not wondering whether it's a good idea or not, then you've already lost. It's the infamous, well, you never know till you ask. Well, if you don't ask, the answer is no for sure, because you haven't asked. If you're willing to accept no, then give it a try. So again, this whole idea of, like tying all these things together, as soon as we come up with some ideas, everyone goes, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? We can either impose limitations on the project going, well, tough noogies if you don't have all the settings the same. And if you want, the displays, well, now you're opening it up and you have to do a bigger job with firmware development and communication ports and all that sort of stuff. So so you start out with a dumb idea. Let's try and tie a couple of these together, and sometimes it's like, oh, that's a really stupid idea. Why the hell would we want to do that? Why not go out and spend $200 on a good oscilloscope from someone who knows what they're doing? Or you can come back and say, my ink doesn't dry very fast. I've splattered it all over the drawing here. Or you can come back and go, that actually is kind of a fun idea. And whether or not it's objectively useful, it will, you'll learn some stuff doing it, and it could be fun or interesting. And maybe some other people, again, maybe, in a school that can't afford $200 oscilloscopes, $200 oscilloscopes, they can buy $10, $20 oscilloscopes for the same price as one $200 oscilloscope, and outfit their students with it. So, and then if you can hook them together and do more complex stuff, you've already got the base tools, and you do the tweaks, and you end up with something more. And then it kind of becomes potentially valuable if anyone ever picks up on the idea. So, yeah, it's why to do it. So, all right. Spent about 150 hours in the last month writing a new PCB reflow oven controller. Oh yeah, gonna stream its debut on Sunday or Saturday. All right, so let me do this then. So let me do this then. Again, my stream is it's a work in progress. It will be better eventually. So what I want to do here, bring this over here, and go like this, and like that, and like that, like that, and like this, and yeah, Canadian, eh? Oh, come on, I'm tired. There you go. Yeah. All the way in northern Kazakhstan, eh? And if anyone else wants a shout out, please do. And what I can do is I can come over here and do this right now. Follow Kite Crafter. And I will hopefully, if I don't get to see your debut, I will maybe check out your VOD if you have one. I certainly have looked at that. We needed a reflow oven at Carleton University, and we ended up buying one, but I did look into building one ourselves because there's a lot of projects on how to do that. So yeah, I'm really interested to see what you have what you come up with and how it works. Yeah, yeah, we're in a weird corner of the internet, so I'm really glad it's happening. I mean, again, I follow a couple of other folks that do science and technology. So yeah, the more the merrier. And um, yeah, one of the things I do hope to start doing as well is maybe some more advanced stuff because I do want to do some physics and engineering type stuff and maybe do it on stream. I am taking courses in the fall, so I might want to do my homework on stream as well. And this is going to be learning how to do MEMS, microelectronic um, mechanical systems. Um, so things like the mirrors that pivot on an integrated circuit. So they're micrometers in size on a chip, sensors and that sort of thing, where you machine mechanical components out of silicon, basically. So I'll be learning how to do that this fall, which could be one. Yeah, there you go. Um, all right, I should wrap up. It is now 10:30, and I need to get to sleep. So everyone who tuned in, thank you so much, and appreciate it. Pardon the technical glitches as I installed my Xilinx stupid software, um, the monster that it is. But it'll be nice to have because I want to do some FPGA work as well. I can do that on stream too. Again, that's really engineering, so to be in science and technology. And yeah, go from there. So, anyways, everyone have a good night. I hope you have a great day tomorrow as well. Um, Night my time, I guess. Some people are it's daytime there or stupid hours of the morning, depending on who you are and how that goes. So, all right, have a good one. Thanks a lot. Thanks for tuning in.